Okay, hopefully this is working.
Muka, come up here.
Test, test. Hello, hello. Okay.
That's strong. That and then the 3 and 4 forms.
Do I? Yeah, they're in the back. Where are we going? Yes, I.
Muka, you're at the
Yeah.
Hold that one. Open the countdown.
Right now. Okay, that's. I need to go.
2 minutes. Oh, it's 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you can just set it by
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Can you stop talking? And probably sit down if you can. It is 5:32, so we're gonna start the forms. The way we're gonna do it is we're gonna call up the positions. They're gonna sit in ballot order with their name tags in front of them. And then we'll go down this way. So person starting here will start, and then when we're done, you'll come back this way for the second question if you have a second question or an audience question, if that's the case. Does that make sense to all the candidates? Does anybody have any questions about that? Is everybody good? For audience members, to submit audience questions, please use the Slido. If you are related to a campaign, like a candidate manager or a volunteer, please do not join in on the Slido. So you're gonna open your browser, go to slido.com and enter hashtag ASU. I'll give you guys 30 seconds to do that. If you're a candidate and didn't grab your name tag, they're up here, the rest of them. Okay, everybody has done that. We're gonna move. So when we get to the questions periods, you guys are just gonna write in your questions. We'll approve them and moderate them to make sure that you aren't targeting a candidate or having inappropriate language. And then we'll just upvote the ones, you just upvote the ones that you like, and the one with the most upvotes is the one we'll read out as the candidates. Okay, we also have a fact checking feature this year. You guys are bringing pizza. You can just put it in the back. We have cups there too. So Francisco Del Pena, the current EAC chair who arrived a little bit late, is a Senate member and a former director of internal policy. He'll be fact checking statements made by candidates by adding comments in the slide. We'll just be approving.
see these comments even if we're not?
They'll come up on the screen.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Back again. Sorry, did not see that coming. We have loyalty cards. They're gonna be right there if you want. Come to 3 out of 4 events, you get $1 off ice cream, 20% off your bookstore, and 1 free hub bowling game. So please be there. And you don't have to be there the whole event. Just be there, get a stamp, stand there, get to know some candidates, and yeah, have fun. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Frisco.
Okay, as a reminder for candidates, when you come up here, we'll each give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. You'll have 30 seconds to do that. Then the questions will each be 2 minutes to respond. And I'll give you the start time, and then Muta over here in the front will let you know when you're out of time. She's holding a countdown and she'll show it to you. Does that make sense for everybody? All right, I'm gonna call up the presidential candidate, sorry. We have the candidate for the position description up in the back so you guys can see if they're on the positions. Okay. If you want to start first, Dad, I'll give you start time. Ready, go. You restarted.
My name's Dag Matt Shelmy. I'm currently a sophomore at UW. I'm majoring in psychology.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
There we
All
go.
right, start.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nandana Jaydeep. I'm an incoming senior. So, senior year, go dogs. I use she, her pronouns. I serve as the current vice president of ASU Dub and also the VP of diversity for the Washington Student Association, which is like the statewide student council. I study economics and data science, and I'm also on UW's premier Bollywood Fusion dance team. Fun fact, but yeah, it's super nice to meet you all.
Okay. All right, Vernon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vernon Lumpkin. I'm a second year studying computer science. I'm running with Remy Martin over there. She's running for director of programming. Our Instagram's Lumpy and Levi. I play on the club soccer team. I'm involved in the computer sciences student advocacy group. So I oversee a lot of policy there. Yeah, looking forward to talking about my policy.
Hi, I'm Andal. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a junior in electrical and computer engineering. I first got started in ASUW my freshman year through Maple Hall Council as a hall senator, and I'm now the Senate Speaker. And I hope to use my last 3 years of experience to create and protect services that positively impact every single student. Yeah, vote UW in blue.
So the first question is from RCSA. How do you envision advocating for residents of UW campus beyond what is already being done by RCSA? You have 2 minutes whenever you're ready to start.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna lie, I didn't live on campus first year. I lived in Greek Route. And I didn't know much about RCA when I first heard about it. So I had to take 4 days to just research about it. And going on the website alone, it looked like they were doing a great job, amazing job. They provide funding, they provide resources for students, and they provide a different amount of events just to advocate for students to create a loving environment for everyone. And I think that's amazing. And also their student feedback form where they can have student voices be heard and everything is amazing. But the one thing that I don't think happens is that students don't know what the RCSA does. Because I talked to a bunch of friends about the RCSA and either they had no idea what they did or no idea what it was. And I don't think it's an effort thing because I think the RCSA does a great job of doing their job but I think it's a connection thing. And as ASUW president, I'll build that connection by not just advocating for new systems, but building on systems that are already there so they can actually make a connection with students and every student knows who's in their corner. That's all I got.
Thank you. Wonderful. So I really like this question. ACW and RCSA have worked together for years now, and I think they do a wonderful, wonderful job. I think the best part about advocating on behalf of ASUW is just the variety of platforms that ASUW has access to. So I would really like to utilize my direct audience that I would get with like the president, the provost, unarmed safety campus officers, and even HFS to advocate on behalf of UW residents, and maybe even like uplift the residents themselves and give them the direct audience so they can advocate for themselves on their own. Because I think effective liaisonship is key to truly representative advocacy. And in addition to that, I know the president serves as like the chief lobbyist of ASUW. So expanding on state lobbying efforts, I know the state is currently battling like a $15 million deficit. So maybe even lobbying during special sessions to make sure that rent stabilization and subsidized food costs and increasing funding for like campus safety is like really prioritized. And I worked on legislation that with NARCare, which as director of university affairs my sophomore year, which made sure that there's Narcan available in dorm halls. And that's something that I really want to continue doing, making sure that our budget is utilized efficiently so that we have things like menstrual products and contraceptives just available for these students to use. And moreover, like I think RCSA already does a really great job in advocating for students. It's not like what we can do more, it's what we can do with them. So making sure that we're not just advocating on our own as ASUW, but also uplifting the voices of RCSA so they can advocate for it themselves. But yeah, thank you.
Hi. I think both Dag and Nanda brought up great points. Dag in particular said that the RCSA has been doing pretty well for themselves in terms of how they've been managing and operating. And Nanda talked a lot about managing their budget. And I think that coming into this next year, a lot of that is going to be up in the air considering what's going on at the federal level. And just in my role at the computer science school, there's been a lot of repealing of different policies and student groups and scholarships that we offer. And I'm not completely sure how that's going to impact the functionality of the RCSA in the coming year. And talking to campus admin, we're on the same page in that next year, the president's role will require a lot of defense. Just when it comes to representing student government, UW as a whole, and being a conduit between admin and the student population. And so I think that making sure that students in these living communities are always aware of what's going on at the administrative level will be really important. I'm not sure how many of these different amenities we'll be able to offer next year, but I think awareness will be my top priority.
Right. Thank you.
Right. So 70% of first year students at UW, which includes the vast majority of students, live on campus in residence halls. So I think when prioritizing residents and advocacy, the key is promoting inclusivity and empowering students so that they feel that they truly belong at UW. For example, improving mental health resources. And the past few years have taught me a lot about centering residents in advocacy work. I think residents come in with bold and new ideas every year, and they have the unique experience of living with their peers 24/7. So I think using that is really important. And as Senate Speaker, I've mentored so many student senators through writing policy on residence hall issues, for example, pedestrian safety and temporary housing reform. And on that note, with temporary housing, I think ASUW can do a lot more work to combat the unsafe and uncomfortable living conditions in the Hansey lofts. And I really hope to work on that with RCSA and HFS. On top of that, I think I'd like to work with the Director of Community Relations on RCSA committees like SEED and take what they're doing and expand it to a greater level. So SEED does a lot of really important work with sustainability, and I'd like to expand that not just to residents, but to the general student body. And like everyone said before me, RCSA does a great job right now of building a network for residence hall students. And I think that provides a great foundation for ASU advocacy. Thank you.
Okay. Although you're going to start us off with the next question from the Greek life. How do you plan on working with UW PD to make sure that all student living areas, i.e. not only campus property, are safe, including Greek Grove? Your time starts as soon as you start.
For those of you who may not already know, UW PD jurisdiction does not include Greek Row. So for students living there, they have to rely on SPD, which students often don't feel safe and comfortable relying on. So I would really like to center Greek communities and Greek leadership in decision-making for safety in these areas, because year after year, I hear from students that their top concern is safety, both on campus and off campus. There's no official student opinion on how to proceed with this issue, but everyone agrees that something has to be done. So I'd really like to work with Greek leaders, for example, the Pan-Hellenic VP of Communications, on solutions like collaborating with UW PD to ensure campus safety officer presence in these areas, improving lighting, expanding night walk and night ride. And this will actually involve collaborating with the city of Seattle, and it's going to be a big task, but I'm prepared to do it if everyone feels that this is the right way to proceed. So yeah, I think a lot of candidates come in with ideas on how best to, what solutions are best, but on issues like safety, which involves so many students, I think centering these students in decision-making is the top priority. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so earlier today, I actually met with Emma, the Pan-Hellenic president, and also with Dylan, the IFC president, kind of just to get their insight into what they, were thinking about. And essentially what I got from their end was that they were trying to accomplish very similar things in terms of just getting that area, I don't know, more frequently patrolled. Break-ins were an issue, especially over school breaks, just because no one is living in those areas. And they are already having conversations with people that could make those areas safer. But what the current challenge is that they're having trouble representing that these are, real problems. And so unifying this issue across not just Greek life, but across MGC, National Pan-Hellenic, and even the people living in apartments like the Standard and the Accolade was something that they said would be really useful in terms of just representing everyone that's living off campus. And so I think that would be one of the things that I would focus on in terms of unifying that perspective. And I realize this is also kind of off topic, but I think it's also really relevant. Regarding the safety of the students off campus, one of my friends, he was recently elected at American University, and one of the policies that he's implementing over there has to do with the university's compliance policies with Department of Homeland Security and ICE and a lot of different law enforcement when it comes to complying with like warrants and a lot of things that could put the safety of our off-campus students in jeopardy and even on-campus students. And so I kind of like to explore what that would look like with UW Admin.
Yeah, thank you for this question. So I know the other candidates kind of touched on like student sentiment regarding like Seattle PD and UW PD. And I know this is like a really important issue for me as well, because I have worked on this in my previous term. And people who live on the Greek Road know their area best, hence why I think it's important to have them be part of the conversation. And that means reestablishing like the Student Safety Advisory Board and having these voices represented on that board so they can tell us directly what is impacting them and how they would like us to fix it, including like having town halls where all of these councils are present, have them with like the president, provost, Sally Clark, VP of Diversity, have UW PD there, and even have like unarmed safety campus responders so we know what the best best avenue to go forward with this is. And in my previous term, I worked on expanding the coordinates for the UW alert system to the north of 45th. And that's something that I will continue working on to ensure that it's executed sustainably if I'm elected president. So that's something I'm super passionate about. And also transparency and communication, like maybe having accounts or even like a constant line of communication where there's like consistency, because things keep changing all the time. So if there's a constant line of communication, we can hear from each other on what new developments are happening. And that's why I think even forums like this are so important. And I thought it was really important to be here today to like just embody the constant flame of like transparency and outreach. But yeah, me and the people that I'm working with are super passionate about what we do. Like I want to work with the director of campus partnerships and community relations to maybe even make like the safety zone app more catered towards UW and the greater UW area and have that be more specific to our area and our community. Because right now there's like so many flaws with the app. Like even I have trouble using it. But yeah, students should not feel unsafe on campus, whether that's on campus or on Greek Row, because those people are also essentially a part of our campus community. And yeah, lobbying at the city level too is super important, and I feel prepared in my lobbying abilities to do that for the UW student body. Thank you.
Greek life in the Ave and just Greek Row overall is just a very sketchy area. It gets pretty dangerous at night, and it's definitely not safe to walk alone. One thing that I would do, I don't have all the answers, but I know that the UW PD police captain is a UW graduate, so he's been to UW, so he knows the perspective of students. So I can definitely talk to him about how to increase campus safety because he's been here, so he knows how to prevent this and stuff like that. And I think they already have good systems in place, like the Safe Zone app, reporting systems, and other systems that make sure that UW is safe. But I want to make safety my #1 priority because every student should feel safe on campus and off campus. But one thing I would recommend the UW PD would do is increase patrolling officers during later that night, and especially in zones like the Ave, even though they can't do it in Greek Row, somewhere around Greek Row, and also increase visibility and just make sure that every student feels safe in that.
I'm going to move on to the audience question. Again, if you guys are a candidate or a candidate, somebody related to the candidates, please do not respond. I'll give you 30 seconds to add questions. Okay, that's been 30 seconds, so we're gonna just. Okay. Again, you guys can upvote the questions you want asked, and the ones with the most upvotes is the one that will be asked. Okay, I'm just gonna stop that there. So the question at the top is, how would you approach supporting Greek life and on-campus residents? Everybody?
Yeah.
First thing I do is just go out and listen. I feel like the #1 thing as a leader is to not just only take initiative and just go tell people what to do, but to understand different perspectives and understand where the concern is so you can go and attack that problem. And then you can also make a joint group of people And a collaborative effort is better than a single effort. So if everybody works together, there actually will be a real impact and everyone will know who they have in their corner and students will know where they would go to seek help and do better. And how would I approach supporting Greek life on campus? How would I approach supporting Greek life and on-campus residents? Specifically, Greek life, I'd want to host specific events for Greek life students and on-campus students so we can all interact together and have fun. More on-campus events. That.
Thank you for this question. And yeah, I think I touched on a couple of policy initiatives in my previous answers, but essentially like in my previous terms and in my like just work and like being a part of the UW community, I've had conversations and I've sponsored legislations. As president, my focus will really just be execution and ensuring sustainability, because I think that's like something that we haven't had as much success with, because we really need to make sure that the things that we are advocating for is like even post any of our terms is still being advocated for. So that's something I want to keep doing. So execution is a big part of my agenda. So working with UW administration to make sure student voices are not just being represented, but actively being acted upon, and making sure that RCSA and Greek life, so on-campus residents, as well as Greek residents and people part of Greek organizations are represented in like a council, maybe working with an ASUW to create a council that has all of these voices represented, and having like leadership summits where we can all come together and meet and talk about what works best for us, because open and transparent communication is the only way we can learn about each other and what our different needs are so that we can have a better collective outcome. And lobbying at the state level is huge, especially within our current state. I feel like I've been lobbying since high school for immigrant rights with One America. I feel like confident in my abilities to deliver, whether it's like, again, rent stabilization, HFS food costs, or even like safety on campus. These are all things we can lobby at the state level for to deliver like the best possible results. But yeah, I think that touched on this as well, but making sure that people feel safe here is huge. So the Student Safety Advisory Board, Safe Zone app, all of these like smaller initiatives that add up to the bigger picture is something that I would focus my time and energy on. But yeah, thank you so much for having us at this forum, and I'm happy to be here with my lovely team, Huskies Unbound. Thank you.
So first off, I'm pretty sure this question is just a combination of the two questions that we were asked originally. So there are probably going to be some repetitive answers here. But deviating from what I've already said, I think that going this next year, it will be really useful to leverage the alumni networks that UW has in addition to smaller, more focused events. So one of my friends in the multi-ethnic Greek community, he said that they had a time when some of their alumni that were lawyers or were educated about law came in and they taught members about their rights and what they did in certain scenarios and how to protect themselves. And I thought that was just such a cool way of a very low cost method that was really effective at protecting student populations. And I think there's really no reason that needs to be limited to just that community. And expanding smaller programs like that would prove really efficient.
I think we need to recognize that ASUW should be providing a lot more services that impact every single student, and by impacting every student, we will in turn affect Greek life and residents. And this could look like providing microwaves in the hub or printing services. But other than that, like everyone previously has said, communication is so important. I'm a big data person, and using things like the autumn resident survey that RAs put a lot of work into getting residents to fill out for a starting point for advocacy is really important. And I think, yeah, bringing people together to work on collaborative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you to the presidential candidates. Please grab your name tags. just come with you, and I'll be calling out the vice presidential candidates. Again, please sit in order of the ballot order with your name tags. Okay. With that, the vice presidential candidates, for everybody seconds to.
Can you give me 1 second?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Miller. I'm incoming senior next year. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm really excited about the opportunity to run for your vice president. I have lots of ideas about how I want to do student engagement on campus, how I want to expand ASUW resources, if that is for to create more student opportunities for professional development, for internships, for jobs, for volunteer opportunities. I just really want to get engaged with the student body. So vote UW in blue.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sonal Burke, and I am super excited to be running to be your next vice president. A little bit more about myself. I'm currently a sophomore here, double majoring in human resources management and finance with a double minor in diversity and human rights. I'm super passionate about all things surrounding student council and student government. And I am running on the Huskies Unbound ticket. So remember to vote Huskies Unbound.
Hi, everyone. My name is Colin Wagner. I'm a current sophomore here at UW. I'm a communications major. I don't know my minor yet. I'm really grateful to be here. And I'm just looking forward to really getting the community together and trying to put on a lot of on-campus events that include everyone. And sorry, I'm really nervous. And thank you.
So with that, we'll ask the first question from RCSA. How will you ensure accountability for ASUW commissions or organizations to engage with RCSA in Greek life? You guys have 2 minutes and you're ready to start.
So one of my biggest priorities with my platform is creating accountability and approachability of ASUW to students. And some of our biggest student populations are within residence halls and within Greek life. About 1/4 of students live in residence halls, and about 70% of first-year students live in a residence hall. So that is a big population of people that I want to have ASUW outreach to. Furthermore, there's about 30% of all of UW students are part of Greek life in some way, shape, or form. So in communication with myself and the director of community relations, I really hope to collaborate and establish a connection with these groups. I want to be in person. I want to go to general council, to hall caucus, to the student senate, to really hear from these representatives and these student voices. I know as part of the student senate, those student voices are really important, and there's a lot of passionate people in that are very dedicated to what they do. And I really want to connect with them on a face-to-face and personal level. As VP, one of the job descriptions is that you should meet with your board of directors once a quarter. And I definitely plan to meet with them more than once a quarter, specifically at the very beginning of the year when they said like the director of community relations and really establishing a good connection with our communities in both Greek life and RCSA.
All right, so accountability is something I take extremely seriously. It's something I've had direct experience with serving as the current ASUW personnel director, also known as the chief of HR for the organization. A major part of my job has been holding our employees and also board members accountable in doing their job and performing their job to the best of their ability and according to their job descriptions. So when it comes to ensuring that ASUW commissions and entities engage with both RCSA and Greek life, including NPHC, MGC, and PA, I can confidently say that accountability isn't a talking point for me, but it is a standard that I will actively enforce. At the core of this accountability ask is collaboration. ASUW used to have a very strong culture of collaboration, but over the years, that engagement has died. This needs to change, not just for the sake of the internal ASUW engagement, but for the total UW engagement as a whole. True leadership isn't just about directing, it's about inspiring involvement and encouraging learning. Not every commission or entity within ASUW may have prior exposure to RCSA or even Greek life, but that should not be a barrier. It should be an opportunity. We need to cultivate a culture where ASUW is open to learning, listening, and collaborating, which leads me to something that we are already doing within the ASUW is when we publish our public progress reports, also known as quarterly reports, we include a question along the lines of, have you collaborated with those outside of the ASUW? And that question, I believe, is very vital to addressing accountability because then it's open to the public and they're able to refer to that RCSA and commissions to, I'm out of time, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
One thing that I think that we need to focus on most is transparency within our communication when talking with student housing and both Greek life. And I think that we need to be more clear in meanings behind acronyms and organizations mentioned in any form of communication, whether that's an email or a flyer, because I think that a lot of people get these forms of communication and discard them because they can't fully understand what is being said. And I think that there is a lot of people that aren't involved that want their voices to be heard, but just don't have the confidence or the strength to do so with the current way that we're communicating. And I would love to have more required surveys. I know people don't like them, but those would be chances for the people that feel like their voices aren't heard to really speak up and have a say. And I think if we find more nuanced ways to go about advertising on-campus events, opportunities to go lobbying, other forums, we would get a bigger turnout and we get a more diverse range of people. And we get a lot of people that haven't been involved before, which is going to bring change to the school and what we really need. Thank you.
For your next question, the follow-up, do you have any plans on working with UWPT to expand their jurisdiction?
Before this forum, I did not have any plans to, but after listening to what the presidents had to say, I really liked what I heard about getting UW-PD involved with Greek life. So there are a lot of safety concerns, and I think having councils where we bring everyone together that's involved would be great, especially the people that were affected on Greek Row by safety concerns and having them say what happened and what we can do. And working with the city of Seattle as well, as it's an area off campus. So that's going to need to be done. And yeah, that's all I have to say for now on that.
All right, I actually really like this question because I currently, outside of school, have worked to expand on safety, whether it was here on campus or in the city of Seattle as a whole. One thing that I did was I submitted a memo to Rob Saka, which is the Seattle City Council member for District 1, representative for District 1, basically issuing how there is a lack of safety between like nightly hours, and especially since UW students go down to the Chinatown district to go to these nightlife establishments between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. It has become way too dangerous. Alongside that, interning for Stephanie Fain, who is running to be the District 5 seat in the King County Council, who's actively working to ensure safety within our most populated city, which is Seattle here in Washington and the King County. But I wanted to share a personal anecdote. So I was in the ASUW office walking out, and a lady with dementia had approached me. And I was waiting there trying to figure out how I could get her home. And there was no response from UW PD at that time. And then UW PD came and told me that it was actually a Seattle PD problem. And that kind of made me upset because I was waiting there for 3 hours and I was waiting for someone to do something about this issue, and that never occurred. I personally believe an implementation that I would work on would be to have responders who are unarmed. First of all, there is no need to be having armed officers coming in and dealing with situations that our students are facing on campus, especially when it has to do with a disability or mental health or with people that are not necessarily students. And that can be resolved faster by also including mental health officers on site and quickly as well, because of the fact that I had to wait there for 3 hours to even get a response in the first place. So yeah, thank you so much.
So this is a very sensitive issue that I think comes with a lot of nuance in expanding the UW PD's jurisdiction. My biggest concern, of course, is with student safety, but also with student comfortability with safety officers. I would reach out before I tried to advance the UW PD's jurisdiction. I would really want to reach out to the students that this impacts the most. And this would impact, like some of the presidents had said, Greek Row, as it is currently under Seattle Police Department jurisdiction and not UW PD. And so I'd want to speak with Greek life senators and representatives, and with our Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life, and with the Pan-Hellenic Council. And I'd want to speak with as many people as I could face to face that could give me the opportunity to learn about what their needs are. If they did want to proceed with advancing the UW PD jurisdiction, I would fully support that. And I would work to getting that passed as much as I could by expanding the campus boundaries. And if not, however, I would, regardless of if the UW PD jurisdiction expansion was supported or not, I would want to expand other programs and resources and make them more knowledgeable to students. So that includes like the Safe Campus hotline, where students can call and get a professional to speak with them of their concerns and what possible next steps they could have. Also having, like Sonal had said, maybe some non-armed officers that are able to come and help with these kind of situations that do not require armed officers. And then also maybe just creating a little bit more approachability with the UW PD with our students as much as possible to make sure that people feel safe in their communities and with the people that are supposed to protect them. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the audience question. I'll just give you guys like a minute to upvote or just add any questions. Frisco has a fact check there. You can see the active union. In 2024, the UW population. Oh, it's a comment. It says Frisco. In 2024, the UW student population was around 46,000. Breakdown was 59.6% commuters, 3.2% Greek life, 16.4% off campus, and 20.8% residents. The EAC election members. Okay, so with that, with the most folks, UW PD is extremely understaffed. The likelihood of expansion is low without the right resources. What are other safety initiatives that you will work to implement? Jenna, we're going to start with you.
So as I kind of mentioned before, I really want to work with resources outside of the police department, both SPD and UW PD. So that would include expanding our
just knowledge and access to the Safe Campus Hotline, because I personally didn't know that it existed until my second year at the university, and I wish I would have known when I was a freshman year. And also working with I want to work with our Office of Government Relations, as well as our Federal Relations, to expand our safety resources to as far as we possibly can. It's in terms of either state policy or federal policy. I really, really want to create this campus. I want to create a safe campus here, and I want to do that outside of police department if I possibly can. And so in trying to expand them, I don't know if that would be the right way to go about it or not, but I do have other options and other things that I want to expand, as well as with the UW alerts, wanting to make that more of a approachable and efficient way to notify our students about safety concerns.
All right, so to answer this question, I wouldn't necessarily lead it to expand UW-PD staffing in the first place. I think a great way to approach this would be to support the UW-PD in another aspect. So that being through mental health services. Given that on campus, sometimes we deal with those people that may not necessarily know where they are, may not necessarily know where to go, and we don't have the correct training for some of our responders at the time. So increasing mental health services and including mental health counselors in situations, emergency situations, I think is highly critical because of the fact that when something is going wrong, when something is not right, it is a human's natural instinct to want to panic, to not want to be in the situation in the first place. So having someone with the correct training through mental health services and counselors would be ideal to better support our students here on campus and to better support UW-PD, which means that we're not necessarily expanding UW-PD, but we're expanding other services that can support UW-PD in the first place. Thank you.
I 100% agree that we need to help support mental health here on campus and off campus. And through UW-PD, I agree that we should get some more training on how to deal with these mental health problems, as not everyone is trained to deal with those on campus, whether that's with students or with people that aren't students that are on campus. And it really just comes from a lack of understanding. If we had people here that were ready to help, it would be a lot better than calling someone who's not sure how to help and causing a scene and just escalating situations that really just need to be understood and dealt with properly.
Okay, with that, thank you to the vice presidential candidates. You may be seated. I'm going to call up the community relations. We have some extra seating up here at the front if you guys are just standing at the back. So you guys want to sit down.
Oh my God.
Follow the director of community relations. You each have 30 seconds to introduce yourselves. Brent, if you'd like to start.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brandon Powell. I'm a junior pronouns at EHAM, studying communications, minor in business. And I'm currently running for your director of community relations. And I'm currently serving on a ticket called the Wave. So ride that wave, everybody. And yeah, thanks so much.
Everyone, my name is Tanya Bandari. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently serving as an elected chair at the ASUW Student Senate and a policy intern at the Office of Government Relations. studying computer and political science, and I'm currently an on-campus resident, and I will be next year as well. This is a great turnout. It's amazing to see you all. Some of my platform priorities include increasing safety and security on campus and on campus, but also improving access to public transportation. I'm so excited to be here, and vote UW and Bloom.
My name is Jessica Fan, and I'm so happy to be here with you all today. And thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here and listen to all of us speak. I know I and the rest of Huskies Unbound really appreciate you coming here and listening to us care about what we are here for. And I'm from Linwood, Washington, and so I've always been a Husky through and through, and I've always wanted to step into a leadership position, and I've always been in one. A lot of the work that I do focuses on youth communities, and so I know that I am set to be a leader here. And
That's all the time you have, sorry.
thank you.
That we're gonna move on to the questions. So the question from RCSA is, if a Greek life organization or RCSA and ASU disagree on the topic, how do you plan to represent both communities or organizations in board meetings?
Yes,
You have 2 minutes.
this is a great question. Thank you so much. When I want to start off by saying there are 3 things that I really value when it comes to forming just any sort of agreements. And I think those 3 values include communication, compromise, and kindness. Communication between different parties is essential to make sure every voice is being heard at an equal amount. I want to engage in open dialogue for every party involved in any sort of disagreement. I want to fully understand concerns and priorities from any party involved, create a comforting environment where everyone feels safe enough and comfortable enough to voice their own opinions, come up with any concerns they have for me. Facilitate discussions by ensuring both groups have opportunities to speak without being dismissed. And when it comes to compromise, I want to find solutions that work for everyone, identifying shared goals first and foremost, just identifying goals in general. I want to build solutions that align with the broader student body interests of UW, propose fair compromises and address major concerns, and no one feels ignored. And I want to encourage flexibility. Sometimes we're not going to always come to one solution, and so I want to discuss alternative solutions that allow for gradual implementation, because Rome was built in a day and change takes time. Kindness is also something I value all throughout my life, creating a respectful environment and inclusive space. To do this, I want to set norms and a respectful dialogue with any meeting with the board, any meeting with any party involved. I want to acknowledge legitimacy with concerns and just bring matters, just acknowledge how important concerns and matters are in everybody's eyes. I want to foster long-term relationships with everybody through encouraging continued collaboration beyond just disagreements in meetings. And I just want to say that my main role for this position is to represent students I not only liaison to, regardless of disagreements. I want to ensure that the BOD is aware of concerns and oppositions to a certain matter to an extent. Thank you so much.
So I fundamentally believe that disagreement should never be divisive. And as the director of community relations, you have to recognize a lot of the students that I serve and represent are students who are members of residential communities, are students who are members of the Greek communities and who have leadership in that aspect. And my goal is to do right by you, to do right by the students that I serve and that I represent. And that is really important to me. So when it comes to actually addressing this sort of disagreement, I will really make sure that I reach out and I connect with the VP of Communications at Pan-Hellenic or the Director of Government Affairs at RCSA and really sit down and think, hey, what part of this ASUW legislation is not aligning with the interests of students in our residential communities, the students under RCSA, the students who are in Greek communities, and really sort of sort that out and make sure that after I get that information, I'm able to advocate for students so that I can represent, again, the students that I serve and I represent because I want to do right by them. There was actually a really good example of this that happened very recently at Student Senate. There was a bill regarding RA compensation that RCSA really, really strictly opposed. And I was very close to quite a few students who really actually loved that bill and supported it. And so I was in a space where I was able to hold this diverse set of opinions, but ultimately, after conducting a lot of student research, talking to a lot of folks, speaking a bit with RCSA, my vote sided with that of RCSA because, again, my priority was making sure that my vote and my representation is what's best for the broader student body and the group of students and the demographic that I represent. So again, I've never believed that disagreement should be divisive. I think there's so much change and so much potential here, and I'm super excited to serve you all.
Well, I think that my job as community relations is to be the liaison and bridge the gap between ASU Dub and all of the organizations and communities that are here today. It would be my priority if elected for this position to make sure that everyone feels heard and respected and have their perspectives be basically on the table for us to see. And I have for many years had experience being a peer mediator. And if you don't know what mediation is, it's literally kind of that talking through, doing that open dialogue. And my passion for open and effective communication has really translated through all sectors of my life. And that is something that I would encourage when working with all of the organizations here today. The first thing I want to address is that all board meetings are public. And I do think that that's something that many leaders have not taken advantage of in this school. It's open to not only the student body, but the general public as well. And so I think that that's one way that you could make your voice so clearly heard. And then in this position, I would love to meet with leaders in Greek life and RCSA and all of the other communities to fully understand their perspectives and concerns and even try to find solutions while also communicating our perspectives and goals. With that meeting, I plan to take my notes and key questions and points to the board to ensure that your perspective is heard, as well as encouraging representatives to attend those meetings and have their voice be heard as well with my assistance. Because at the end of the day, while I work for ASU Dub, if elected for this position, my job would be to serve you. And my goal is to work toward a solution that reflects a balance of interests while enabling communication and collaboration throughout this agreement. Thank you.
Great, thank you for your responses. Next question is, how are you going to ensure that you have a comprehensive understanding of communities you are a part of so that you can better collaborate with us in a productive manner?
Okay, perfect. This is a lot of talking for me today, but I am lucky enough to be a part of a special community here on campus. I'm a part of Greek life. I'm in Alpha Delta Pi, and if not being in a sorority, I would have no clue some of the things that are put into perspective for me. And I think that that experience has been really rewarding. And I decided to go through primary recruitment, and I was like one of the last people to sign up. And I was so hesitant. My mom didn't go to college, so that thought seemed so far to me. And I decided to go through with it because I was so curious about what it was all like. And I wanted to experience it for myself. And that curiosity doesn't just stop at Greek life, but I am eager and curious to learn about each and every sector and community if I were to be elected for this position. And I believe that building genuine connections and relationships is essential to establishing a comprehensive understanding of communities I'm not a part of. And I might be a part of Greek life, but I'm not a part of all the other organizations here today, right? And so, I think that I would really take my time to be able to understand and see their view and perspectives. But, my efforts wouldn't just stop there. I plan to be intentional about seeking diverse perspectives and reach out to the leaders regularly. And I want every community to trust me and my ability to represent each voice. And I'll build that trust by showing you that I care and showing you that I'm willing to communicate, and I'll be there, to talk and have your perspectives be heard. So thank you.
So much, because my entire life in leadership, I've always taken the stance of wanting to get to know your individual stories. And I recognize your story is not my own and your lived experiences are not my own, but I want to get to know your individual stories and advocate for them. So I'll take this question from sort of the perspective and lens of the constituencies that maybe I'm not directly a part of, but I serve, like Greek life students, like commuter students, like international students. And really, I've had so many friends. I've been so fortunate to have had a lot of friends and interactions with students from all these communities, including Greek life. And again, no way claim to have lived those same experiences, but completely claim to share a lot of those same values. I had an experience very recently, actually, where I got assaulted on the app. And that wasn't Greek Row. The app isn't necessarily Greek Row, but you can bet I have such a passion for security and safety on Greek Row and off campus and on the app. I've had friends on Greek Row talking to me about how they've had break-ins, and Seattle PD isn't really any help in successfully and sufficiently addressing that. So we have a lot of these shared values and same shared concerns, and I really, really want to advocate on your behalf, and I want to tell and share your story. One thing I really believe in, it isn't just about talking to people or having friends who are in all these different communities and just listening to their stories. It's about actually taking initiative as a leader and putting yourself physically in those spaces. It's hard to understand social struggles and experiences with commuter students who have to leave towards the evenings. They can't attend a lot of social events until you attend a social event during the daytime and talk with those students. It's hard to understand their struggles until you sit in long-term public transportation or until you yourself are concerned about security in a parking garage. I'm not a commuter student, but I think all the time about security in parking garages when I'm parking my motorcycle. Right? Or we all drive cars and you're working about your parking prices. And it's such an issue. And I'm not a commuter student and I haven't lived those same experiences, but I want to advocate for all of you and I want to share your story.
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. I just want to start off by saying I felt like I've lived my entire life like a chameleon, just having to adapt to so many different environments. I moved from an island to Seattle at the age of 9 and did not know a single thing about what I was getting myself into. I didn't think I was even be able to go to college. I didn't think I was going to be able to even be up here in the first place. And so just having to adapt to so many different situations in my life that I never thought I'd be a part of. Like, for example, joining a frat my freshman year, I didn't see myself ever doing that, to be honest. But I think the most important thing when it comes to understanding a life that you never thought you'd live or you never just are never probably going to be a part of is acknowledging that there are going to be gaps in understanding people. I want to acknowledge firsthand my own gaps in understanding in approaching different types of communities on campus. I have just recently been talking to a lot of my lovely roommates about their program called STARS. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about that, but it's a very underrepresented engineering program here on campus, and just hearing what that program is going through right now and just what financial wise and funding wise, I believe that is acknowledging that there are so many just different organizations on campus that we don't even know about, and just having conversations with people. I think building relationships is one of the greatest joys in life. To spark conversation with anybody, with people you never thought you'd be able to spark conversations with. And so the biggest voice is the student voice. And I think we need to amplify that. Underrepresented communities making sure underrepresented communities and organizations have a seat at the table every single time and maintain relationships through conversation. And through this, I want to build as much trust as possible and create the most impactful changes in relationships I can with as many organizations on campus as I can, and hopefully just adapt to everyone else as well. So thank you so much.
We're going to move on to the next question. Oh, we have a comment from Francisco in 2023. ASUW passed R-39-15, a resolution calling for the addition of a campus safety officer and to update the UW PD website. These officers would be unarmed and support safety efforts from the ASUW Senate. I'll give you guys 30 seconds to upvote, to do your last upvotes. And a reminder to the candidates, please make sure you're making eye contact with the person in front of you so she can start the timer.
I'll just start whenever you start talking.
Okay. The UW Greek System Councils have consistently raised concerns about UW housing policy, safety, UW PD response, and the university's oversight of the Greek councils. How will you better represent the Greek council in discussion about UW policy?
Thank you for this question. I think the best approach to better represent the Greek council in a discussion about UW policy is, like I said, just creating connections, relationships, and just clear communications as possible, as much as possible. I really want to prioritize the importance of outreach channels, whether it be through just newsletters, surveys, or just face-to-face communication. I really want to, I think that is the number one priority when it comes to implementing just any parties and any UTA policies, like in general. But for Greek life in particular, I think that overall, I've heard many stories of just Greek life not getting the best representation or the best rep when it comes to just life in general, of living, just student life in general. And so I kind of just want to break that stereotype. I think that I had a great experience living in the fraternity my freshman year. And so I want to just increase the outreach of just what I could do for Greek Life Council is just facilitate discussions with them, hear their concerns, hold forums with them, and just make sure that their voices are being heard at the table and just better implement any policies they need change on. But overall, the importance of just connection and relationships and communication, I think, is the number one priority when it comes to just implementing anybody in a conversation. But yeah, thank you so much.
So I'll start about this as a sort of a big idea level, what my mission is, what my goal is, and then I'll break it down into just a few examples. But one, on a larger level, I want to be in your spaces and I want to actually talk to you. I want to show up in those spaces, see what it's like. I want to hear about the issues that you have. I want to see them and I want to witness them. And I want to pull you into our spaces, our governmental spaces, our decision-making, policy-making spaces, and advocate for you in that regard. A couple things that are I talked about security and safety, and it's been a really, really huge issue on my platform and priority for me. But a couple of the things that I have on my platform as a result of that specifically, and a lot of it actually came from my communication, mostly with Greek life community members, was a non-emergency reporting system, some way that you can sort of have an idea. And SPD doesn't offer this, and UW-PD doesn't either online, but an idea of what's going on in the regions you're in. You're walking home and it's 12 a.m., it's 2 a.m., even if you're with your friends, knowing what's going on, or there were some non-emergency reports in the areas nearby where you're walking or where you're planning to walk, or even emergency reporting systems that are a lot faster than UW Alert. And some of our safe campus systems. And so a lot of that came in conversation with members of Greek life. And I want more of that. I want a lot more of that. And I want to actually execute those plans and make them happen. Also, another thing that did come across in those conversations was campus lighting. And some of it was on campus, like around Drummeller Fountain, but also some of it was off campus by around like Eagleson Hall and by the bus stop where it's super dark. And even on your way to Greek Row. And I want these details. I want to show up in your spaces and make things happen, because I recognize, there was a previous question, I think, at the vice president's little forum here, but you can't always increase staffing. You can't always rely on that. And sometimes that's just not practical, but I want to make change and I want to make it happen for you during my time serving you. And I want to find the most practical ways to do that. And again, I want to show up in your spaces and I want to pull you into some of mine. So let's make some stuff happen and vote for UW in blue. Okay. Well, the first thing that I think about when this comes up is we have a safety chat in the app that we use to communicate with all of our members, right? And when Tanya was speaking, I just thought of the safety chat because, it's this silly thing, but it's really not silly. The fact that we have to have this and the fact that we often rely on it sometimes to make sure that we're in the know of everything. And I know that it's a direct line of communication between all of the other leaders and other sororities, relaying this information back to us. I think that I really appreciate that level of communication. However, I think that we need to do better and we need to try to implement that on a whole new scale. And in a way, I think that my anecdote about me not knowing really anything about Greek life or anything about joining a sorority kind of just shows that we don't understand some of these issues as much as we'd like to. And we don't understand
all of these different things that are being brought up by people as much as we should. And so I think that my biggest priority, as said on my candidate platform, is to host quarterly summits and meet with these leaders directly, face to face, speaking and having that direct line of communication and hosting these structured events so that we can effectively and positively communicate with one another. Just because I think that right now, we are in a position where it's kind of wishy-washy and we aren't sure how to get our line of communication out. And we aren't sure how to implement these policies to UW, right? And I think that if I were to be elected for this position, it would be my #1 priority to try to make it clear that I am that direct line of communication and I can help you set your goals and I can help you make your goals happen. Because I think that it's most important to recognize that we need that done. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the media relations candidates. I'll call up the director of campus partnership candidates. From now on, just to make the form a little bit speedier, please hold your applause. Seconds for introductions. Whenever you're ready.
Hello, my name is Cranston Koch, and I am running to be your Director of Campus Partnerships. I am running independently, and I am an ASUW outsider. I am an officer in a lot of RSOs. I run Huskies for Housing, which is an advocacy group. I'm on the Student Advisory Board for NextGen, so that's where I help plan events. And I am an officer for the Thai Student Association. And part of the reason why I'm running is because I really got to interact with a wide group of students this year, and I'm really excited to interact and engage with you all this year.
Hi, everybody. My name is Adriana Scott. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a 3rd year here at UW. I'm a public health, global health major, minoring in nutrition. I'm also on the pre-nursing track, so shout out to any nursing students out there. I'm a part of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated and the Vice President of Communications for the National Society of Black Health Professionals. A connected community along with health and safety issues. I am very passionate about that. And I'm happy to be
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, your first question is, because you work with so many organizations on campus, how would you choose which initiative to focus on and how would that initiative impact residents?
Part of the way I interpreted this question would be kind of how would I operate? And so running a ton of RSOs basically taught me that there's a lot of things going on at all times. And I think it's really important to set your goals and priorities, especially with the rest of the board of directors, to see where we can serve students better and to see where we can find areas of improvement. And so I think it's important to kind of understand that some things will work in the background, just working with a ton of independent and off-campus, on-campus partners. But also, it's important to check in and advocate for students where you can. And that's part of the reason why I'm running. But I'll loop back around to safety because actually just earlier today, I was working the morning shift at the Hub Info Desk, and a man came up and he told me he was looking for someone, an individual who someone had called a wellness check for them. And I thought that was great because he was a social worker who was subcontracted by UW PD. And a few hours ago, I cited the individual that he described, and I gave him a call because I had his business card. And then he said, well, my hours are 9 to 3, so I'm no longer on campus. So I think it's really good that we're prioritizing more of these mental health interventions around campus and trying to really serve students in the ways that do not involve, like we said earlier, having more handcuffs, having more service weapons on campus, because I think in order to foster a safe free speech campus, as well as making sure that residents feel safe in these tough and changing times. It's really important that we have more social workers. We can reform UW-PD. We can try and transform how the organization works, because this can be a transformative time, but we have to be there every step of the way. Thank you.
So having worked as a certified nursing assistant, I believe that health and safety are both human rights, and I believe that they go hand in hand as well. I want to create safe space where students' physical and mental health is prioritized by focusing on initiatives like increasing mental health resources, by advocating for more funding so we can have more counselors and reduce the wait times, because I know that that's really annoying for you guys. And then I want to make sure that victims of sexual assault and relationship violence have options to seek help. I also want to have free menstrual products and bathrooms campus-wide. And I want to expand the Safe Zone app so people further from campus will know what's happening in their neighborhood. And yeah, focusing on these issues at the same time, I feel like we can build a campus that's both like safer and healthier for everybody. So thank you.
Please remember to hold your applause for the end, guys. Your next question is, how will you ensure that underrepresented student communities are included in campus-wide initiatives?
So being half Latina and half Black, I've talked to members of the Latin community, and some feel as though like ASUW hasn't done enough for them. And I know ASUW has been working to bridge the gap, and I want to be able to close that gap. Lots of groups on campus have specific needs that I am unaware of, just because we have different lived experiences. So I know that there are many underrepresented groups that feel unsafe on campus. That might be due to a change in administration or high crime rates around campus. And I want to create safe spaces where students can share their concerns. This way, I know the needs of my residents that I'm trying to help. And I want to create solutions to these safety and health issues. How will I do that, you might ask? Well, creating safe spaces and open conversations would start with prioritizing going to RSOs for underrepresented communities and having open conversations with those communities, and establishing the Student Health and Safety Advisory Board. With this board, I want to hold monthly meetings so students can come and voice the concerns that they have. And I know I would be representing your guys' voices, so I want to make sure you all are heard.
Yeah, so I mean, being in a lot of RSOs and just planning a lot of events this year, which is my main job, I've gotten the opportunity to interact and really just meet people where they're at. I met a lot of international students, commuter students, students who work full-time, all sorts of students just from all spectrums. And I really think that like, it's important to meet people where they're at, because people will not always be there. So I think being the director of campus partnerships is going to be a transformative role again, because there's opportunities to collaborate with, for let's say, the Office of Student Life, with administration, with the rest of the board of directors, and really trying to lay out this plan to see where the most effective ways that we can gather student feedback on certain programs and initiatives, and being able to support students through counseling, through safety efforts, listening to students' voices on sustainability, and maintaining our current campus commitments going through the next administration, presidential administration of the UW. I think that's one issue that I'm passionate about. Is I'm a social scientist, I major in sociology. I love surveys, but I opened up the UW PD feedback survey the other day, and that was really long. It was so long that I didn't even want to do it. And I think it's important that we focus on reform for surveys. It's important that we make them more succinct, that we can make them more accessible by putting them, say, in dorms, tabling and collaborating with partners to see where we can really gather that feedback in order to take it and make a plan so that we can move forward and we can create new avenues for ways that we can support students through these new times. Thank you.
Right, we're going to move on to the slide. I'll give you guys a few minutes to upload your comments. Okay, I think we're pretty much good. So we'll highlight the first one. Give an example of 3 campus partnerships you are interested in forming. Be as specific as possible as to your goal in these partnerships. And so whenever you're ready.
Yeah, no, one of the main goals of Huskies for Housing this last winter quarter was supporting Tent City 3. And I think that was a really great opportunity just to kind of provide this place for our local community unhoused residents to have a place to stay during the cold winter months. I think collaborating more with nonprofits such as Share Wheel, which manages and operates Tent City 3, would be a great way to kind of engage the issues that face us and to bring our kind of learning and experiential learning off campus as well. Because the whole point of that partnership was it was really academically enriching, and it was also enriching just for the residents of Tent City 3 because they had access to a few campus resources. They had a place to stay for 3 months, and it was really great for them. That's something I was really proud of organizing. I think there are other opportunities just to kind of expand our partnerships for let's say, student legal services, which has been inundated as of recently with Know Your Rights, interest in Know Your Rights sessions. And I think there's ways that we can kind of engage our greater Seattle community to reach out to attorneys, law firms, see where we can even reach out to law enforcement to see that students feel safe, students feel supported. There's a lot going on right now. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge that and that we address that properly. So I think there's just a lot more opportunities on campus, off campus. I have 20 seconds left. I need a third one. But I really want to look more into being transformative as the director of campus partnerships. And I'm really passionate just reaching out to people and trying to make some new plans. Follow Coke for Campus on Instagram. That's a 4.
Yeah, so 3 of the organizations that I want to expand partnerships with is Live While You Dub, SARVA, which is sexual assault and relationship violence, and Hall Health. And I think that I work on 2 RSOs and I do outreach and social media for those RSOs. And I think that it's really important that students know exactly what's happening on campus because I know that I didn't before I started doing social media. And with Live While You Dub, I want to focus on outreach to students about what health resources they have. Because before I started running, I didn't even know what Live While You Dub was. And I don't know if any of you guys know what it does, but they did these kits that were amazing for students. I think that really helped. With the sexual assault and relationship violence activists, I want to focus on having more sexual assault nurses available because I think that's really important. Also, Hall Health, I want to expand insurance options because personally, I know that they don't take my insurance, and that's a real hassle for me to go outside of UW to seek more insurance options. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you to all the campus partnership candidates. I'll call up the director of internal policy candidates. Just a reminder, if you guys are a resident, please remember to check in with Callista at the front. Callista, if you want to raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. So you guys have 30 seconds. Ready?
Cool. Hey everybody. First of all, thank you for being here. Showing up is half the effort, so I appreciate everybody for showing up. My name is Anand. I'm first year studying economics and data science. I was originally born in Chicago. I'm from California, and this place has quickly become my home, and I'm eager to give back. So you can vote for me for Director of Internal Policy, and also my ticket, Huskies Unbound. Lovely people sitting over there, and I'm excited to give my information to you. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Simon Thompson. I use he, him pronouns. I am studying political science with planned minors in Spanish and leadership. I'm originally from Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm a first year student here. I don't know if I already said that. I'm really excited to be here today. I'm formerly the youth governor of Michigan, and I am now excited to be running for the director of internal policy with a ticket called The Wave. And we're on Instagram at Vote the Wave.
So first question and the only question, what is one current ASU policy you believe needs revision and how would you go about changing it?
Right. Thank you for the question. I know everybody's itching to hear the answer. So let's go ahead and start. So for anyone that doesn't know, you can obviously read the description, but the Director of Internal Policy's main role is to make sure that everyone in ASU follows the rules and regulations that are already assigned by the Constitution. So basically, I'm just a big watchdog for all of the ASU to make sure that transparency and accountability is held. So while I hope to solve issues like increasing student senate accessibility and ensuring that everybody's elections in the future are transparent, one of my major motives is to increase representation inside of the student body, but more importantly, permanently establishing the representation within future changes that I can hopefully make at the school. So specifically, we in the ASU continue to use student advisory boards that a lot of my other candidates have mentioned. And so as a part of my process, I would hope to increase the amount of representation in these student advisory boards. Specifically, RCSA and Greek Life don't have representation on the student advisory boards as of yet. It hasn't been codified, it's not in the legislation, and specifically with the form of RCSA, it would be great to have student feedback, to have Greek life feedback in basically all of our operations and to make sure that that is a part of our legislation. So again, we've had great progress so far, but the biggest problem is that not only will this keep our actions in the future more transparent, but making new changes to existing representation, as in modifying these advisory boards, would be equally as important. Another major aspect of reforming our future is to look back at our past. We have a massive Husky alumni network that not a lot of people interact with. So as me, in my position as Director of Internal Policy, connecting to alumni to make sure that changes that they wanted to see in their past are reflected in the future is also very, very important to me. So ultimately, we all have a responsibility to incorporate these voices into decision-making processes. And on my ticket, and especially me personally, I want to see that these future changes are reflected through my actions and the actions of my peers. So thank you.
All right, hi, I'm Simon again. One thing that I forgot to mention in my introduction is that I'm also a part of Student Senate and the Personnel Committee, which is going to prove to be important here. So one current ASU policy that I believe needs revision comes from the Personnel Policy, the governing document of the Personnel Committee. The Personnel Policy states the following. The ASU strives to provide a fair and unbiased hiring process, allowing any UW student who is a member of ASU an equal opportunity to receive a position based on the criteria set forth by the hiring committee. We shouldn't just be striving to do this. We should be demonstrating commitment through action to ensure that we do this. So to complete this, I want to go back to one of my platform's key points, which is increasing internal engagement within the ASU. This means for this specific change, engaging with other ASU employees to create these changes, whether it be the president, vice president, director of diversity efforts, or the personnel director. It also means that I will nurture the environment to begin collaborative change in this instance. And then I will see through that change to make sure that it's done properly. Further, as chief historian for this change, it would be investigating available analytics to fully understand what changes within the organization specifically are necessary to achieve this change. Before I wrap up real quick, I want to say that the Director of Internal Policy may focus on operations and processes, but that will never, ever stop me from actively engaging with students to drive the change that they want to see. Because after all, the ASU Dub is for the student body. Thank you, and vote the wave.
All right, we'll move on to the audience question. Please add questions and do your upvotes now. We'll give you guys 30 seconds. Okay, with that, I'll walk in this audience question. So the question is, what policies would you implement to include Greek life for RCSA?
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna sort of go back to my previous answer because I do think that encapsulates all of the student body. But I think that that's just the beginning. So this is just such a small subsection of the personnel policy. This is a humongous document that includes so many different things that could require revision, such as this one. It could also mean revision within the ASU bylaws, constitution, the EPP, which is the governing document of the elections procedures and a second word. The personnel policy, as I just stated. So there's a variety of different changes that could take place that could benefit Greek life. That doesn't just need to mean it's Greek life, but it could also be RCSA or any student organization. So, you know, internal policy is a little bit difficult to get on that campus partnership side of things and to make sure that we're serving the student body. But as I stated later on in my previous statement, I am here for the student body. I'm here to listen to you guys. I'm here to create changes that you want to see, whether it be through sororities, fraternities, RCSA, you know, the halls that you're living in. I really want to hear from you guys and create an internal change through this position. So thank you so much.
Perfect. Great question, because I think Greek life does not have enough representation currently. My role as Director of Internal Policy would be codifying and making sure that it's mandatory to have Greek life representation. Ultimately, I'm only on the policy side. So in terms of policy that I would be looking for, I would look towards my peers, Greek life, and also just residents in general in order to implement this policy. So for example, I would go to campus partnerships or community relations to see what Greek life actually wants codified. For example, I mentioned student advisory boards, making sure that Greek life is represented and has a vote on any type of policy that's being implemented is one example. But ultimately, I'm just the enforcer, and I would look towards multiple avenues and venues of feedback in order to create the actual policy that I want to create. Greek life ultimately is very important. It drives a lot of change at UW and is still very underrepresented. Even reaching out to alumni that I mentioned previously, reaching out to alumni that were in Greek life, seeing the types of changes that they want to see inside of ASUW is massive to me. So I'm open to ultimately any feedback from anybody in Greek life to see what type of policy we want. And when there's consensus, that's passed. Implementation happens on my side, but ultimately driving that change comes from all of you. So if, and hopefully when I do get the position, I want to see that everybody's feedback is represented in myself. Sending out surveys, please respond. Anybody just walk up to me. I would love to have the feedback possible in order to draft policies, and then have all of you vote in order to make sure that your voices and your feedback is represented. So come together, create your own policies, come to me. I'll make sure that those policies are reflected in our governing body. Thank you so much, and vote Huskies on the ballot.
Internal policy. And it's maybe seated. I'm going to call it the Director of University Affairs.
Yeah. Do you mind flipping?
Okay, we're gonna move on. Oh, sorry, I forgot to do the introduction time. 30 seconds for introductions. Here is.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to be here with all of you and to get to experience this incredible community. My name is Kate Lawson, and I'm so excited to be running for your Director of University Affairs. First and foremost, I'm a proud Husky. I'm a sophomore political economy major with a minor in dance. I have always been involved in government affairs work, and I'm really interested in bringing that aspect of my life into serving the ASUW community and to serving you guys in representing your voices to representatives and legislators. So thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Toa Nakano Harris. I'm an LSJ major, a proud resident of McCarty Hall, and of course a candidate for Director of University Affairs. In running for this position, my main priority is accessibility for all students. To be more specific, that looks like keeping costs down for things like tuition and textbooks and course materials, as well as providing more resources for students who have historically been underserved by the university community. So first generation students like me, as well as students.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Alice and I'm a third year currently studying public health with a minor in public policy. And I currently serve ASUW as the co-director of SARVA, the Sexual Assault Relationship Violence Activist Administration, and I'm a proud member of the Pan-Hellenic community. I'm very excited to continue serving you and to increase safety on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. So your first question is, how do you plan to improve student involvement in university decision-making processes, and what specific actions will you take to do so?
All right, I'll get started. As your advocate to both the university and to legislators, my priority is ensuring that I'm open and available to all of your needs. I'll be implementing DUA office hours, and I'll also be implementing a DUA meeting scheduling service that will be available to all of you in Greek life and RCSA to come and talk to me and express your opinions. I'm also deeply committed to doing active outreach. I can sit here and tell you that you can come into my office whenever, but I know that sitting in my office all day is not getting out into the community and serving how you guys need to be served. I plan to go out and enjoy the amazing things you have to offer as much as possible. I want to attend hall council meetings and hear outreach about what my office can do better. I want to support lobbying events and go work with OGR to advocate for what students need on campus and on the ground in their legislatures. I also want to see the incredible things your communities do that use our campus resources and give back to our campus. I recently actually had the ability to go to a faculty dinner sponsored by one of our clubs and funded by Hub Funding that was able to connect over 50 students with faculty and resource opportunities. And I'd love to collect these stories and to be able to give them back to the faculty boards that I represent on and show people what our resources are doing. I think it's so important to include our community voices in that and to be a participant in those activities. As one student in the university, I have my own personal experiences, and that comes with my own personal priorities. I've lived in on-campus communities, I've eaten in the dining halls, I've used the study lounges. I've also had some incredible experiences working with the government and lobbying, being a congressional intern, working on campaigns, and working with some protest groups as well. And I plan to bring all of that experience to this position. But I also know that many of you have different experiences than me, and I'm dedicated to centering those conversations in my work. I can't stand up here and pretend I have all the answers, but I can look to you and I can promise that I will tirelessly work to find them. Your experiences as members of this community are the absolute most important part of my job.
So I love how this question really gets to the heart of what it means to be a director of university affairs. More than any other board position, the director of university affairs is really responsible for representing the student voice, not only within the student government, but also to administration and to state legislators, as I believe Kate mentioned. So obviously, including the perspectives of on-campus housing residents and members of Greek life is super important. We have around 4,000 UW students involved in Greek life and around now 9,000 in on-campus housing, which is a huge proportion of the UW population. So as director of university affairs, I wouldn't really be able to do my job without properly representing those communities. And to do that, I want to work really closely with the RCSA, Pan-Hellenic, and just members of those communities in general. Specifically, that could look like partnering with the directors of communications on both of those organizations to make sure that events aren't scheduled at the same time, as well as hold things like forums for big issues. Another thing that I really want to do is extend an initiative that's currently being run by by this year's Director of University Affairs, Kim Ugadin, which is to create a student newsletter to inform students about what's going on in admin and legislation. I really love this idea, but I would like to extend it to be a physical newsletter. I've done a lot of tabling and canvassing work, and I know the impact of an in-person connection as opposed to something online. I think we've all had the experience of subscribing to maybe a Substack, and then it arrives in your email inbox and you just never read it. So I would love to expand that newsletter initiative to be more interactive, easier for students to access. And that could also mean putting it in residence halls where students can pick it up just on a whim, as well as placing it with Greek life leaders where it could go out to various sorority and fraternity houses. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, as your Director of University Affairs, I will bridge the gap between students and the UW administration through transparency and communication. I will be serving on various faculty committees as your liaison to the administration, and I want to create listservs for each student where they can choose which faculty committee they're interested in. And every month I will update them on key decisions, discussions, and opportunities to be involved in those committees. In this way, students will know who to reach out to with anything related to administrative and faculty processes. I'll be the liaison for every ASUW representation on many committees, namely the Faculty Council on University Facilities and Services. I want to make the open selection process for university committees more visible and inclusive. Right now, most people hired to these committees I'm talking about are internal. They have already worked for ASUW. And historically, that's not the best practice. I value diversity and inclusivity, and that just doesn't reflect that. I'd like to have regular check-in meetings with all the student liaisons on these faculties to make sure that they feel empowered enough to bring up student issues to administrative members, because I understand how daunting that can be. And I want to advocate effectively in vital spaces such as the Committee on Academic Conduct and the Student UPass Advisory Board. I will work closely with senators and legislative representatives to advance student priorities on the state level. When I worked on Senate Bill 5355 alongside legislative representatives to increase survivor resources on campus, I learned how to bring student voices into that decision-making process. I held a listening session where students could come to a room at UW and speak directly to legislative representatives on their issues. And we're actually able to write some of those provisions into the bills, direct student voices, which was really amazing. So through transparency, communication, and representation, I will make university government more participatory. Thank you.
Okay, we have some audience questions. I'll give you guys a minute to add more or upvote them. So the question for the University Affairs candidates is, what organization do you want to increase connection with the most?
Perfect.
I know I'm appealing to the audience right now, but honestly, the organizations I want to increase connection with is the Greek community, the fraternities and sororities. As a sorority member, I've noticed how little we are represented in ASUW and how much we truly can bring to that space. I will push for there to be a faculty committee on safety because I understand how that issue pertains to sorority and fraternity spaces. We are made to live in these houses, yet our safety isn't ensured when we're just trying to get to class. And I would love for there to be a Pan-Hellenic representative and an IFC representative on those councils so that they can give their unique feedback. I'd also love for the Pan-Hellenic and IFC senators and Senate there hasn't been as much participation in Senate meetings by these members as I feel would be good because there are a lot of housing and safety resolutions that are proposed and passed in the Student Senate that I think if these members did regularly attend meetings and report back to their chapters, it would really add a lot of value to ASUW's connection to the Greek community. So I'd love to host just honestly like a quarterly check-in with all the senators who are part of fraternities and sororities and representing them, asking them, how can I better bridge the gap between the two communities? Because I understand how isolated we are from each other. And I've taken steps to bridge that gap myself, just working for ASUW as a Pan-Hellenic member. And I just feel it's very vital and important for all of us to speak to each other. So. One thing that I believe both of my fellow candidates have mentioned as an important part of the Director of University Affairs position is the importance of our role in student lobbying. So as part of that, the organization that I would want to strengthen our connection with the most is the United States Student Association. For those of you who don't know, we're currently working on returning student lobbying to its prominent voice at the federal level through the reformation of the United States Student Association. And many members of ASUW have already been super integral to reforming that organization, but I really think that we can reaffirm and strengthen that commitment further, particularly through more representation from people who are not members of the mainstream ASUW crowd. And that especially includes members of RCSA and Greek Life. I personally participated in lobbying just last week where I testified in front of a committee for the Washington State Senate in favor of keeping tuition costs reasonable. So I know how impactful that lobbying is. It's super crucial, especially at this tumultuous time, that students have a voice at the federal level, and that includes students in Greek Life, that includes students on campus. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm really interested in taking a yes and approach to this question. So as you may know or you may not know, the Director of University Affairs oversees OGR, the Office of Government Relations. That's our ASUW lobbying arm, and they advocate for the needs of students as determined by ASUW. And I'd really love to bring people into that organization. I know there's incredible student advocacy groups, Green Greeks, people on Hall Council that really understand what you guys want to see in our lobbying efforts. And I want to bring you guys into OGR and allow you to use your voices to advocate for the things that you care about. I know things that the Washington State College grant are under fire right now. I know there's some very negative DEI policies coming out of the current federal administration. And I think all of those things are felt the most by students and can be translated the most through OGR. So I'd love to continue to bring people into OGR and to continue to make that resource available to all of our incredible groups on campus. We can't just say we want to focus on one organization or build up one group. We have to be inclusive and bring everybody's voice to the table. So thank you so much, and vote Huskies and beyond.
Candidates, you may be seated. I'm going to call the Director of Diversity Efforts candidates. You guys have 30 seconds to make introduction statements whenever you're ready.
Hi, Huskies. First and foremost, thank you for taking your time out today to be here. I'm Valeria Perez Esteban. I'm a second-year double majoring in informatics and law societies and justice. I'm thrilled to be running for your next Director of Diversity Efforts on the Huskies Unbound ticket. Don't forget to vote Huskies Unbound.
Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Redondo. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm currently a second-year first-generation student living in McMahon. I'm also studying political science as well as Latin American and Caribbean studies and human rights. These experiences in those communities, as well as my time as a peer mentor, student advocate, and within research, has made me deeply passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion becoming an integral part of the UW's community and something that cannot be taken away.
All right, so your question is, how would you better foster relationships between all 4 Greek councils and residential life to improve communication and promote community-wide diversity initiatives?
Yeah, so as we know, both Greek organizations and the RCSA are Center for Student Advocacy, yet historically there has been a disconnect between them. In this position, I'll work to bridge this gap by creating intentional collaboration, open communication, and shared advocacy initiatives that promote DEI. To do this, we can establish a Greek and residential life advocacy initiative. It provides a new way for Greeks to demonstrate their values through collaboration and benefiting recruitment by upholding the principles of leadership, community service, and advocacy. By using Greeks Take Action as a blueprint, we can establish a unique and long-term partnership for Greek unity and engagement with residential students. This initiative includes 3 key components. The first being creating a joint committee between RCSA and Greek leadership with Greek representatives from all councils and residential life representatives. This committee can serve as a liaison between Greek organizations, RCSA, and HFS, ensuring ongoing collaboration, shared leadership opportunities, and proactive engagement in diversity efforts. Next is leveraging our resources. Although I'm very determined to create this initiative, it does take a village to make a change. I want to collaborate with student resources to gain perspective, get feedback, and to efficiently hear student voices from all communities on campus. By working with Leadership Without Borders and Purple Group to support undocumented immigrant students, OMAD, and TRIO for mentorship and academic resources, DRS to ensure students with disabilities have equal access to academic programs and campus life, the Q Center to advocate for gender and sexuality diversity, and the ECC to facilitate cultural and identity-based programming, we can enhance the reach and impact of our initiatives. With these first 2 key components, we can create educational programming. First, by providing diversity and inclusion training for RAs, hall council representatives, and chapter leaders. Then, partner with RCSA for workshops and discussions that address issues impacting both Greek and residential communities, as well as social events that encourage cross-community relationships. These events will bring together members from all 4 councils and residential communities to foster.
That's all the time, yeah. Thank you.
My aim is to work directly with leaders within RCSA as well as within the Greek Council, specifically those working to maximize diversity and inclusion within their communities, to directly understand their concerns as well as their needs through collaborative events, town halls, open houses, as well as meetings and collaborative meetings specifically to understand what their needs and their concerns are and how I can best address those and use my voice to bring that in terms of policy and diversity initiatives. I also aim to work directly with marginalized communities and understand how their experiences within Greek life and their experiences living on campus and being a part of campus communities has informed their concerns and their needs, and this taking the form of continuing to advocate to ensure the elimination of any ICE present on campus, specifically with and near Greek Row, as well as living communities here on campus, and ensuring complete accessibility for all students with disabilities, no matter where they are, either on campus or off campus, to ensure that they're properly able to thrive within their communities.
All right, thank you. I'll give another extra minute for audience questions. So what are your ideas to work with the fast-growing MDC and NPHC councils? How can your resources be a benefit to their communities?
I think the most important part is open and honest communication, understanding first what they need from me and not what I can do for them. I need to understand how I can create an action plan by learning from them, being within their communities and understanding their concerns and needs. And by doing that, I can best address that and understand how I can tailor our current resources to them or advocate to create more resources that they may be lacking, that other students also may be lacking. And so ensuring that open line of communication through, again, meetings, events, town halls, working with these communities directly, maybe also me attending certain events within these councils and these communities will allow me to understand how I can best fit them because I am elected by them. I am a representative of them. And so as that being so, I need to understand what I can do for them first.
Yeah, so just to reiterate what I just said, the creation of the committee between the RCSA representatives and Greek Life representatives will foster a community where we can share dialogue and increase recruitment because through these events, they can show their morals, values, and missions within each organization. These events will bring together members from all 4 councils and residential communities to foster dialogue on systemic inequalities, racial injustice, educational access, cultural empowerment, and student advocacy, as well as with the diversity and inclusion training. I believe that recruitment for these organizations will be better because with this training, it will give them a wider range of perspectives to consider.
Thank you to Director. Thank you to the Director of University Efforts. And I have the Director of Programming candidates come up.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Grace Clark. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a junior studying LSJ and Disability Studies with a minor in music. I'm currently involved with the RSO for Mata Acapella, which is a competitive acapella group. Any Pitch Perfect lovers out there, shout out to y'all. I'm super excited to be running for Director of Programming with the Wave ticket, so make sure to ride that wave. And I can't wait to share more about my platform. Go Dogs.
Hi, my name is Rhiannon. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a junior in human-centered design and engineering with a minor in American Sign Language. I'm with the ticket UW and Bloom here, and as Director of Programming, I would really want to focus on filling in the gaps for events. So making sure that events that aren't already being addressed are promoted and held here at UW, as well as helping current events, so communities that already run events for specific or general audiences, helping them with whatever they may need.
Hi, everyone. I'm Owen Rivera. First off, I would like to thank everyone for being here to support not just myself, but all of these wonderful candidates. I'm a first-year political science major from Everett, Washington. I'm a resident of McMahon Hall, and I actually have a junior standing. I'm really excited to run for this position with Huskies Unbound, and if elected, my biggest goal is to collaborate with external UW student organizations and internal ACUW entities to create fun and engaging events. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Remy Martin. I'm running for Director of Programming. I'm campaigning with the unfortunately named Vernon Lumpkin. Follow us, Lumpy and Levi, on Instagram. As Director of Programming, I would really like to focus on increasing awareness and accessibility of sexual health resources for students, and just working with RSOs and Greek Life and RCSA.
Okay, your question is, would you be open to collaborating with the Greek councils and RCSA on events, and how would you go about this?
Awesome. Yeah, I first want to start off by saying that collaboration is like the reason why I'm running for this role. I think collaboration is not only a huge value of mine, but I think it's also key to effective programming. So one of the examples that I would love to follow in their footsteps is our current Greek RSOs like Green Greeks, Greek Pride, Greeks Take Action. I think they're doing a lot of really great work to unite ASUW and Greek councils. And to expand on that, one of my biggest passions, like I said, I'm in a acapella group. So music and creative experiences not only bring people together, but they bring a lot of joy, which I think the UW campus is definitely in need of, especially with the times that we're living in our federal administration. I think it's time for students to rally together and enjoy our time in college. I think through also events like we see Denny Field is a unique location to host events that are accessible to on-campus residents and Greek life. So I think hosting events like concerts, open mics that are more frequent and also allow for students to network with each other, I think is a great opportunity to keep building that UW community, which has been so important to me, having been an on-campus resident myself, and also a creative person that loves meeting new people and being open and accessible to others, which I think is one of the biggest things that I would want to be as director of programming, working with RSOs, being a liaison to a variety of groups and students on campus. I think just being that constant open ear and being willing to hear out new ideas, but also not being afraid to take initiative and take action and plan to, ensure we have that community and space together, like the beautiful Denny Field on this nice sunny day. So, thank you.
Yeah, so I 100% would love to work with both Greek Life and RCSA. I think all communities on and off campus should be involved in events. I also know that RCSA and Greek Life both host a wide range of their own events for their own members. And they are very frequent events that cover so many different areas. So I think it's important that if I'm hosting events, I'm contacting them first and foremost. So I know what events they're already hosting and I can support them with that without stepping on their toes. I also want to make sure I'm not hosting events that would overlap with their events. So at the beginning of the year, I think it's really important that I talk to them about what their plans are for the year, where they feel they need additional support, because it's about me helping them, not about them helping me, and what events ASUW can run, if any, that they would like to see. And then in those events that ASUW would be running, in partnership or separate from RCSA and Greek Life, I'd really like to focus on students and communities that maybe aren't represented in either of those bodies. So transfer students, commuter students, any of those students who maybe can't go to RCSA events or Greek Life events, finding a way for them to be involved. And if willing, I would love for Greek Life and RCSA to coordinate with me on that so that we could get RCSA students in Greek Life and sororities and fraternities, and students who are commuting, and students who are transfer students and not on campus, and students living on campus, all of them at the same events, so that they feel welcome and that they can meet everyone from across campus, no matter their department or their living situation.
I would love to include both the Greek councils and RCSA and ASUW events. The first step in this process is meeting with RCSA and the Greek councils to learn their needs and what their goals are for our collaboration. I would do this through specified leadership summits for the 4 Greek councils and RCSA, somewhat similar to RSO leadership summits. To successfully cooperate with our Greek councils, I would work closely with Greek leaders, the Director of Community Relations, and also OCOM to better understand how fraternities and sororities would like to promote their organizations through ASUW. After meeting with Greek leaders, I will work my hardest to bring their ideas into reality. I would like to create a system in which all fraternities and sororities, including MGC and NPHC, can promote their organizations on campus and online with the University of Washington, where they can inform students about important values and events they're running. To collaborate with RCSA, I would meet with hall councils to hear event ideas and understand dorm hall resident needs, and then work with dorm leaders to create events in dorms, such as baking classes and kitchens, or dorm-wide basketball or soccer tournaments. Most events would be run in dorm halls. Most events that are run in dorm halls would be sort of smaller. They would be funded by ASUW, but because they're smaller,
they're not going to be cost heavy, and therefore they can be run by volunteers. That's about all I have. Thank you. Go Huskies, I'm bound.
I think my fellow candidates landed on some really important points, especially reaching out to Greek Life and RCSA first and asking what they need rather than jumping the gun and assuming what they need and really listening. So definitely keeping up a line of communication. I know Greek Life has expressed a want for a little less ASUW involvement in certain areas, which is fine. I think just communicating that is of the utmost importance. And just knowing where I'll be needed and where I need to step back is just as important. I think it would be wonderful to have more social events for our CSA members as well as Greek Life members, and especially making these events interactive and interesting for people to want to go to, especially if we have different or new resources that we want to make accessible to students. How can we introduce that? How can we introduce these new changes in a fun way that gets it out to a lot of different students? But yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what my fellow candidates said in terms of just making RSCA more social and having more events to connect more students on campus.
All right, we'll move on to the audience questions. I did leave a comment that the dorms do have their own events hosted by hall councils, which they have their own volunteers because that's the hall councils. RCSA has a set budget to give to these hall councils for those events. I'll give you guys a minute to add your last questions and then we'll go. So the question is, how will you work to ensure people actually want to go to events or so that they are more engaging? Please give specifics. You have 2 minutes to make it started.
I think just brainstorming right here at this table, I would say everybody loves some competition. So maybe having fun games or something, things that involve small prizes, that could be fun. I would love to work with Greek and RCSA representatives to think more about what we can do to make these activities more engaging. But I think involving the promotion of the new resources that we give just in ways that are kind of almost like subtly like annoying, like just really just constantly like putting flyers up in places that people glance at and they think nothing of it, but eventually they kind of are like, maybe I will go check this out. Or just making like we could do collaborations between Greek Life and RCSA where their Greek Life helps volunteer to help move students out of the dorms or stuff like that, or like or students who are moving in between dorm halls or things like that. Spitball in here. So thank you. Vote for me, and you can vote for Vernon if you want, but it's not as important.
I think first and foremost, the most important part of planning an event is marketing. And that means that if I'm elected, I will be trying to work very closely with OCOM, which is in charge of communications, to promote all of our events, and get them out into the air for all UW students to see. I think another thing that I could do is create a program committee where we can evaluate events to see in past years what worked, what didn't work, and how we can improve every event to be better than the last. Another thing that would be possible would be to collaborate with identity commissions and also visiting RSOs to make sure that the events that they're running are exactly how they want them to be. Collaboration is extremely important, especially in a case like this. I think communication needs to be very solid through RSOs and myself, through Greek councils, through RCSA, for every event we run. Because every event that we run is for the students. And if it's not done by the students, with the students, then there's no point in running them. I believe that we could work very hard this next year to create events that have not been seen at UW ever before. Thank you.
So I think first and foremost, before we even start planning the events, we need to actually understand what events people want. And so part of that does come from talking to RCSA, Greek Life, and various other communities on campus. But part of that also just comes from talking directly to students. Because if I plan an event and nobody is interested in it anyways, it doesn't matter how much marketing I do, nobody's going to come. So I think before we even start planning an event, we just need to understand what students want on campus, and then we can start planning that event. And I agree that it's really important to collaborate with other organizations and communities on campus. There are so many communities on campus that have strong memberships, that have their own events or their own ideas, and getting all those people involved in the community and in these events is really important. So if we can reach out and figure out what events they want to see, reaching out to RSOs and other organizations on campus, but then also reaching out to students who are living in Greek Life and RCSA and just asking, what events do you want to see that maybe you aren't expecting to see from RCSA and Greek Life? Then we talk to the RCSA and Greek Life councils, figure out what events they're planning, and then fill in those gaps. Where do people feel that events on campus are lacking? So I think that's really important. And then beyond that, some post-event documentation and surveying, understanding who's coming to our events, why are they coming, what barriers are leading to people not coming. Because I also know that some people don't go to events because they're commuters and they're gone after hours. Or maybe they just don't have the time, they're super busy, or maybe they just didn't hear about it. So learning about where we can improve previously held events to make them better for the next year.
Awesome. I love this question. I think that when thinking about planning successful events, I think of two keywords, community, and I'm going to be honest, convenience, y'all, especially for those on-campus residents. I think that ensuring that events are accessible location-wise, and as I pointed out, Denny Field is an amazing location to host events because of how accessible it is to both Greek Life and RCSA on-campus members. I also think that planning events to ensure that people want to attend them, let's feature some RSOs. I think that one of my biggest goals as future director of programming is to unite RSOs together by specific topics that they focus on, like the arts or sustainability. Or creatives or sports or other areas that people find community with each other. Why not let these RSOs find community with other RSOs they're also working with, and then plan events that cater to their members. I think that those are the important parts of being a director of programming, is uplifting RSOs and ensuring that they have someone in their corner to advocate for them. Because like I said earlier, it's about the community, it's about the joy. And I think that RSOs, as well as Greek Life and RSA, are very unique examples of where we can find community on UW's campus, where it's sometimes hard to do that. Like we're coming into spring quarter after the hibernation station of winter quarter, like we're back into community mode. And I'm happy to be heading in that direction. But I also think that throughout the year, we're able to sustain that through RSOs, Greek Life and RCSA. So yeah, advocating for those communities, hosting events with other RSOs, with Greek councils, with RCSA, and making sure that those events are accessible and convenient, but also joyful. And yes, getting feedback on what students think they will enjoy the most and benefit from the most, because that's what I'm here to do, is work for the students. So yeah, that's all, and make sure to vote the wave.
Francisco up in the front. So with that, guys, please look to the EAC to obtain a voter's guide and a stamp card to get coupons for attending forums. Thank you to all the residents, Greek Life candidates, except for the candidates who took pizza after I said 3 times not to, for your time. Special thanks to Francisco, Ria, the RCSA Exec Board, Mukta, Hannah, Kripna, and Valerie for setting up the forums. For residents, please look out for emails with reminders to vote. and look to see if you want our democracy dino, which is at the front. We could have gotten it if you guys checked in. An autumn government affairs. Please remember to vote on April 21st through the 23rd.
Yeah. I didn't realize. No,
Yeah, that sounds aggressive too. Everyone,